So today what we're going to be doing is looking at changing the motor of the J6. The J6 is the Group 2 with that can have single power from Quantum. Now the easiest way to do this is to turn the wheelchair on its side. The batteries are sealed lead acid gel batteries, so they should be able to be turned on the side without any issues. The next thing that we're going to do is actually put a strap around the front end into the tie down, and then we're going to compress the springs to move the motor into a more accessible position. The more we compress that spring, the easier it'll be to get to all the parts that we need to get to. Now that we have the motor compressed, we'll go ahead and take the wheel off. This is a 17mm wrench socket. We'll pull out the center hub. We'll lift the wheel out of it, being sure to hold on to the key in setting it aside. So now that I've compressed the spring and I have good access here, I'm going to remove these 4 bolts to allow the motor to drop out. Now, most of you know that I prefer to use the 5mm Allen wrench with the ratchet. However, the ratchet doesn't fit nicely into this little space. So what I'm going to do is use the 5mm L-shaped Allen wrench to get the ones on the back side out first, and then take the 2 out front that I have access to with the box wrench. Now that we have the inside bolts removed, what I'm going to turn my attention to is this Carter key right here that holds the lever onto the linkage for the neutral for the motor. Boom, and there it is. It falls out. Now I'm going to leave that in place on top of the motor that I'm taking out. So when you remove the motor, note that the lever was in the out position and this was at about a 45-degree angle toward the rear left of the motor. Okay? That way, when we remove this from this spindle and put it back on, we can get it oriented appropriately. So this is in freewheel now. See how I can turn the shaft? If I go like that, it is now locked in place and I cannot turn the shaft. So back to that 45-degree angle is where we want to start. And then we're going to use our Allen wrenches, and I believe this is a 3 or 3.5 millimeter on the side here. And we're going to remove that. Make sure that this is in the neutral position by turning the axle with your hand. Once you've made sure that that is in the appropriate position, remember this needs to be at about a 45-degree angle back in that direction. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get these started. And what you're going to notice before we put this on, that there are detents on the inside of each of this that correspond to the position of the set screws. And what we're going to do is kind of get those moved into that position. jiggling it and making sure that we're going to get into the detents nicely. Okay, so that should be the off position, or the on position where the motors are going to engage. Then we'll go ahead and tighten this other side. Some people make the error of trying to get the motor back in place before they do this process, making it 100 times more difficult to complete. You get that all tightened up. We notice that the lever is still up in its up position. We're going to turn that. We're going to rotate this motor and put it back in a position of functionality for it. We'll pull our linkage up, line it up. Make sure our linkage lines up nicely. Okay. I'm going to use the long bolts for the front side. So as you can clearly see that I've taken the battery tray out and I have it sitting on the wheel that I previously took off. This actually gives me better access to the inside so that I can actually use my tools to actually tighten the inside much more easily. So I get the bolts lined up, then I can make sure that I get the inside bolts completely tightened and in good condition before I restore the wheelchair to its upright position. Once I get all the bolts tightened down, what I'm going to do is put this linkage back in the lever hole. I'm going to pull it out into an open position so that I can have good access to reapply the Carter key. Once we have it in position, we're going to push the Carter key through. Use a flat blade screwdriver to make sure it's all the way advanced. And then we're going to split the curve it so that it doesn't fall out. Just like that. Now we're good to go. What we're going to do is make sure that the key is back in the keyway. I'm going to line up the keyway in the wheel with the key and slide it on. It goes on real very easily. We'll put the nut back on. 17mm socket. Tighten it back down. Freewheel, boom, locked. And that's how you replace the motor, minus the section where we have to put in the electrical components. That's a matter of following the electrical leads and plugging it into the control module as every other unit that we've ever done.